The last time we touched base on the Shasta, I had just finished building and installing the kitchen countertop. I'm happy with the way that turned out, but was really uneasy at the end of the last video because we had a rainstorm and some water found its way into the trailer. So in this video, I'm going to focus on doing whatever I can to get the trailer enclosed and eliminate my reliance on a blue tarp as my only line of defense against the elements. I'll start by fabricating some siding to fit down here, which will finish up this side of the trailer. If you recall from a previous episode, originally this piece of aluminum extended all the way to the bottom of the coach, but because of years and years of use and abuse, this section of the panel was in very, very poor condition, so I decided to cut it off and bend in this nice little channel that should accommodate a fresh piece of siding. I'm going to cut the new panels from this 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of 3-inch Mesa aluminum siding, which I believe is identical to the trailer's original skin. I feel really lucky to have found this, even though it costs over $100 a sheet. I'll cut the siding using my circular saw with a diamond blade. My first attempt at cutting the aluminum was with these aviation shears, but I found that it rendered the piece rather wavy. Okay, I hope I cut it right. Now for a test fit, so I can mark where the fender cutout needs to be. This is a new method. I hope it works. I've got this piece cut to fit. Now I just need to make a nice little 90-degree bend on this lower edge so I can fold this lip underneath the trailer and staple it in place. To put my bend in the piece of siding, I'll just put a friendly pinch on it with a couple of C-clamps. Then I can just gently massage this up where it needs to be. Considering the method used to create it, that's not a bad looking corner. Okay. That piece looks like it will work. Now I just need to repeat the process behind the fender. Since I've got my method worked out now, this piece will go a little quicker. That'll do, pig. Now I just need to do the same old thing on the other side. Making the pieces for the right side is really similar to the left, except that I need to create this cutout for the door. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, ready for paint, in the dark. I want to get these finished and put inside the garage as quick as I can. This wet paint really seems to attract little bugs and hands. It's kind of a chore tidying up this gun. After all, 10 minutes of painting and 40 minutes of cleaning. Oh well. Okay, I think that was a success. All 4 pieces are painted and they are drying as we speak. A process that may take 3 or 4 days because it's been so cold outside. Good morning. These pieces that we painted last night still aren't dry, so I'm letting them bask out here in the sun. And while we wait for that to happen, I think I'll install this next piece on the front of the trailer. You might remember that I spent quite a bit of time and effort refinishing the piece that goes right here. But after that was all said and done, I test fitted it, and those dents that I attempted to push out still stuck out like a sore thumb here on the front of the trailer. And since I had enough of the new replacement siding to fabricate a new panel for this area, that's what I did. Just for comparison, here's the old piece of siding. I'm using it as a paint drying rack at the moment. At first glance it looks okay, but upon closer inspection you can see there are quite a few little dings and a pretty big dent right here along this leading edge. And probably the worst blemish is this really wrinkly spot over on the other side that I attempted to work out without a lot of luck. I thought since this is the front of the trailer, this is a piece that's going to be seen a lot. Since I have the material already, I might as well go ahead and make it anew. And here's the new piece. I'm pretty proud of it. I attempted to make these bends myself, but I just couldn't do it, so I ended up taking it to the local sheet metal shop, and for 35 bucks they creased it for me. So let's see how this fits. Well, this one looks good enough. Why not try our luck with the piece underneath?
Looks like we need to just finesse this a little bit. Can't argue with that. I'm out of staples. Reloaded, okay.
As soon as this piece is secure, I'm going to start working on the back. Astute viewers may be wondering why I'm jumping back there when I haven't even finished the front. The reason is I can't put this piece on until I install the last side panels, and I can't do anything with those because I'm still waiting for the paint to dry. So I do have a plan.
Ugh, I just realized that before I can button up the back of the rig here, I need to figure out the wiring for these pesky rear lights. Now, when I took this thing apart months ago, I didn't pay any attention to the wiring. I just started tearing things apart and didn't look back. Well, that's coming back to bite me today. I've spent about an hour and a half doing some severe research and head scratching, but I think I've got it. This light, which is the brightest of the bunch, is the brakes, which stands to reason because the brakes should be bright and highly visible even in daylight hours. And this bulb, which is a nice little dual filament job, consists of the turn signals and the tail lights. And that's the story I'm going with. Electrician Cat concurs. Well, I raided my scrap copper bucket and I think the wiring back here is ready to go. I've got left and right turn signals, brake lights, and tail light circuits running to each side of the trailer. Now it's time to install some insulation and then siding. Now that we have the wires going through the insulation, we can put it in place, theoretically. Okay, I think we are ready to install some siding. I've got the insulation in place, including in this little crevice right here. A great motivator for finishing up this project is that ever since we've been having wet weather, the grass has started growing very rapidly. And I have so many tools and parts strewn about the yard, they will disappear if I don't move them soon. Now let's see about this one. I've got 2 coats of paint on these lowermost pieces of siding, but before I install them, I'm going to put a coat of this Olympic Maximum 10-year guarantee deck sealant along the lower edge of the trailer just to seal out any moisture. Oh, this is fun. Oh, this is lots of fun. I've got 3 coats of paint on this lower edge. Now I can install the bottom run of siding. We've had some really wet weather the past couple of days, and I haven't been able to do anything on the outside of the rig, but in the spirit of keeping production up, I've decided to tackle this bench. Originally, this bench was capable of converting into a bed by using a couple of pieces of plywood stacked on top of each other, and when you were ready to get some shut-eye, you could just shimmy one of those pieces over here in the galleyway, flip some cushions around, and you were ready to lay down for the night. It definitely wasn't an elegant design, but I suppose it was functional. Now, in reconstructing this bench, I've made a couple of changes. For one thing, instead of having just loose pieces of plywood up here, bouncing around as we're rolling on down the highway, I've engineered a hinge system so that when it's time to go to sleep, you can quickly, neatly, and easily just fold your bed out into the hallway and enjoy a good night's rest. I also have another trick up my sleeve for this area, which I am really excited about. That is a tub, baby! I'm proud of this. This is a configuration of my own design. I call it an open bath, and it's not for everyone. For this to work, you have to be the type of person who's comfortable eating a sandwich over there in the dinette while Grandma's across the way exfoliating her toes with a stone. So I'll show you what I'm working with here. I've boxed in this fender area because there's not really much usable space there, and I've created a cabinet next to it for towels, toiletries, shampoos, and that type of thing. As far as the tub goes, it's a nice 40-inch by 24-inch unit that I found on Amazon. It's made of plastic, and I think it costs about $120. Right now it's just sitting in its cavity loose because I haven't decided what I'm going to do about the plumbing just yet. Right now I'm working on framing up this bench and figuring out how I'm going to arrange the bed that I spoke about earlier. So I'll put this front panel on here.
Just like the other cabinets, I'm using construction adhesive and finish nails to put this together. Now that it's in place, I'll cut out a door opening with the RotoZip.
It's interesting that at 5:20 this morning, I was awakened by the sounds of heavy rain, gusty winds, and a fluttering tarp. So I jumped out of bed to check out my trailer, and sure enough, the tarp was blowing in the breeze. Rain was permeating into the trailer, so I got down underneath it, grabbed some bungee cords to tie everything down to try to preserve all of my hard work. I got very wet, as you might see here. In fact, I could probably wring myself out. Yeah, let's see. That's water, folks. And now that everything's tight, everything's buttoned up, guess what? Blue skies, pleasant weather.
And that's okay. I'll just take a break from the bathtub bed and jump back outside.
One area that I think is especially vulnerable to moisture intrusion is right here where the metal frame goes underneath the building. As you can see, the end grain of the plywood floor is exposed along with the lower portion of the wall. Now from the factory, there were no protective measures taken in this spot. There was just a notch cut out of the exterior siding for this frame to pass through, and any water that got behind there was allowed free access to the wooden structure. And here's what I've come up with to solve that problem. I've used some scrap aluminum to create a nice flashing so that any water that blows back here will just be deflected toward the ground and not onto the wood frame of the trailer. And it's put together like this. I have one piece of flashing that actually goes between the metal frame and the plywood floor. Oh yeah, I cut this right the first time. Ha ha ha. Like that. So now I'll staple that in place. And to finish things up, I have part 2, which will cover up these 2 spots. And there we go. I think the only way that's going to leak is if I take a wrong turn down a boat ramp. Folks, this is the last piece of siding to be installed. Hopefully it goes on without a fight. Say a prayer and put a staple. All right. That right there is a mile marker. The aluminum skinning is done.
Next step, windows. And we'll start with this back one because it's like a big open mouth thirsty for rainwater. Jennifer's at the cleaning station now, tidying it up. We're using whatever it takes. Wire wheel, wet sandpaper, polishing compound, and some healthy forearms. As soon as it's done, we'll try to put this thing back where it belongs.
We got the window cleaned up. I think it's looking pretty good. To create a weather-tight seal against the camper, I'm applying butyl tape around the perimeter of the window frame. There are 2 products commonly used for this job. Butyl tape, which is really flexible, stretchy, and sticky, and putty tape, which is sometimes marketed as butyl tape, but it's a little bit cheaper, not as flexible, and tends to harden up with time. An advantage of the putty tape is that it's easier to remove if this window ever has to come off, but I don't anticipate that happening, and I want the best seal I can get, so it's butyl tape all the way for me. This window is ready to go. Let's head over to the trailer. Before I put the window in here, there's a couple things that need to be done. These aluminum trim pieces should be installed in the frame, but they don't look so hot. A quick wet sand and polish job will bring the shine back, and then a few staples and smooth head nails will hold them in place. The interior trim for this window is done. Next, I need to step around outside and put a small piece of butyl tape wherever there's a low spot on the siding. This will ensure a good seal and eliminate any voids. Everything is prepared. Let's see how it goes. I need to remember to peel off this backing tape before installation. Okay, here we go. Well, I probably shouldn't have been banging on the window like that. I caused a little bit of damage on the inside here. So out she comes. See, this is what I mean about that butyl tape. It's good stuff.
The window didn't fit because the opening is too small. Somebody really should have checked into that beforehand. No, you didn't just rewind the video 45 seconds.
Got it. Whew, that was intense. To screw the window to the trailer, I'm using some stainless steel 3/4 inch number 8 pan head square drive screws. I'm not tightening down these screws all the way initially. I want to very, very slowly and gently pull this window frame tight against the back of the trailer. It's almost dark, but success. The window is installed. The only thing we have left to do is trim the excess tape from around the edge. My lovely assistant is performing that task as we speak. We're using a discarded credit card. Hopefully the plastic won't blemish the paint. It's a new day. Sunny skies are in the forecast, so I'm going to attempt to install a few more windows. Dry fitting them, of course, first before final installation.
I'm using the power drill to put in a lot of these screws in a short amount of time, but for their final tightening, I like to use this hand driver. It offers greater control so I can secure the window against the siding gently and evenly. As we put in more of these windows, we're getting much better at it. That back window we installed took almost a whole day, and I didn't even mention the fact that once it was almost completely screwed in, I had to remove it for a second time because the opening was too short, and I have the butyl ball to prove it. But things are moving smoothly now, and the elusive goal of having an enclosed structure is within our grasp. We did it! The windows are installed. The front door. It's the only big hole left to fill. I took the door apart and it was rotten inside, but why wouldn't it be? I rebuilt the wood frame using some 2x material that's been ripped down to 1 1/4 inches thick.
And instead of using the original cardboard core, I'm using some rigid styrofoam insulation. They don't make 1 1/4 inch thick styrofoam, so I'm stacking some 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch on top of each other to get the desired thickness. I think the styrofoam will be a much superior insulating medium than the original cardboard. I was thinking about it. With this, basically, you have a cardboard front door, and I don't live in a box, at least not at this time. Who knows what the future may hold. So I've got the frame built. I have one of the metal panels attached to the frame, and I've started installing the styrofoam. I will continue, and hopefully I'll get this done today. To glue everything together, I'm using this Lexel elastic sealant. I don't know if it's the best glue for the job, but it says it sticks to just about everything, and I've noticed when I'm using it that it has a rather strong solvent odor, which is always encouraging.
After I get this front panel laid down and the hardware attached, this door will be ready to go. But before I put it in the trailer, I'm going to address those large cracks in the piece of siding above the door opening.
Now, the last time we spoke on that topic, I hadn't decided what I was going to do to remedy it other than drilling a hole at the top of each crack to prevent the crack from going up even further. Well, I've since devised and executed what I think is a pretty good solution. I've cut a piece of scrap siding and painted it, and this will be a nice little detail to go over the door. I've got a little swoop here, which is going to be on the front of the rig, and then a little tail back here. So I'm thinking something like this. It'll cover up those cracks and give it a custom touch.
It's got windows. It's got a door. It's enclosed. We've still got a long way to go, but there's a distant mirage out on the horizon of a stylish and functional vintage trailer. And it's slowly coming into focus. Thanks for watching.